Imagine this. You spend your whole life trying to fit in, seeking approval, molding yourself according to expectations that aren't even yours. You measure your worth by the eyes of others. You fear judgment, and you believe that your happiness is conditional on external recognition. But what if everything you've been taught about the need to please is actually limiting you? What if the key to true confidence, success, and freedom lay not in controlling everything, but in loosening your ties? Michel de Montaigne, a thinker way ahead of his time, reflected deeply on this paradox and came to a powerful conclusion. His philosophy invites us to look at life more lightly, accepting ourselves and the circumstances around us without the weight of unrealistic expectation. He challenged the foundations of identity, success, and social pressures, questioning why we insist on carrying burdens that don't belong to us. And at the end of this journey, you'll understand why the moment you stop seeking external validation is exactly when your life begins to align itself in a natural and genuine way. Think about it. How much of your stress and frustration comes from trying to meet expectations that were never yours? How many times have you hesitated to make a decision because you were afraid of other people's opinions? How many moments of your life have been consumed by concerns that, in the grand scheme of things, were insignificant? Montaigne offers us a simple and transformative truth. The less we worry about external pressures, the more aligned we become with our essence. He believed that life is unpredictable and that perfection is an illusion, and that the incessant search for approval keeps us trapped in an endless cycle of frustration. But here's the mistake most people make. Not caring doesn't mean being indifferent, lazy, or irresponsible. It doesn't mean withdrawing from the world or ignoring your responsibilities. It means freeing yourself from the constant need for approval, the fear of failure, and the exhausting habit of analyzing every last detail of life. It means living on your own terms, being present in the moment, and understanding that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Montaigne spent much of his life studying the nature of human behavior and noticed a clear pattern. People are prisoners of their own minds. Trapped in endless cycles of worry, insecurity, and self-criticism, they sacrifice their authenticity in exchange for social acceptance. But he questioned, why do we allow the opinion of others to dictate our decisions? Why do we cling to a sense of control when life, by its very nature, is uncertain? Why do we chase an idea of success that was never really ours? And most importantly, what would happen if we simply stopped caring about these things? When you stop worrying about perfection, you begin to accept your flaws. When you stop looking for external validation, you start living for yourself. When you let go of the need to control every detail, you make room for life to unfold in a more authentic and spontaneous way. And herein lies the great paradox. The less you worry about proving something, the more powerful you become. Think of the most confident and charismatic people you've ever met. Are they the ones who are always justifying themselves, trying to please everyone, seeking approval all the time? Or are they those who seem to be at peace with themselves, unperturbed by small concerns and unwaveringly authentic? Montaigne understood this truth long before modern psychology validated it. People are naturally attracted to authenticity. When you stop seeking validation, when you embrace your imperfections and trust yourself, you become more captivating in all aspects of life. The moment you let go of the fear of failure or judgment is the moment you gain something even more valuable: freedom. Freedom to take risks without being paralyzed by fear. Freedom to express yourself without hesitation. Freedom to simply exist without measuring your self-worth by external standards. But the most fascinating thing is that by letting go of these unnecessary worries, not only do you find peace, but you also see your life improve in unexpected ways. Relationships become more authentic. Opportunities arise naturally. Decisions become easier because they are based on what you really want and not on what you think you should want. This is the essence of Montaigne's philosophy. He believed that most of our suffering comes from resisting reality, from trying to force life into a mold that simply doesn't fit. But when we let go of this resistance, everything begins to align. Now think, how many times have you stopped expressing your opinion for fear of what others would think? How many times have you found yourself reliving past conversations, analyzing every word you've said? How many of your choices have been shaped by expectations that were never really yours? Montaigne invites us to free ourselves from these self-imposed limitations. He shows us that by letting go of the need for absolute control and the obsession with others' approval, we can find a lighter, more authentic, and, ironically, much more successful life. The real secret is not to hide from the world, but to relate to it in a freer and more detached way without carrying unnecessary burdens. And when you understand this, you realize that the simple act of not caring about the wrong things can be the first step towards real and profound transformation. It challenges us to embrace uncertainty, accept imperfection, and stop allowing fear to dictate our choices. And that's just the beginning, because as we delve deeper into Montaigne's philosophy, we discover practical ways to apply this mindset to everyday life, ways that help break down mental barriers, make decisions with confidence, and truly experience the freedom that comes from detachment. Montaigne's philosophy is not just an abstract idea. It is a practical guide to transforming the way we live. But what really happens when we adopt this state of mind? What changes when we stop seeking approval, stop worrying about every possible outcome, and stop allowing fear to dictate our actions? Imagine waking up one day and realizing that most of the pressures that weighed on you were never real. That the rules you followed, the expectations you tried to meet, and the fears that kept you trapped were illusions created by society, by conditioning, and by your own mind. Montaigne understood that human beings are naturally anxious. We are constantly overthinking, trying to predict the future and fighting the unknown. But what if the key to happiness lies not in solving every problem, but in accepting that some things are simply out of our control? One of Montaigne's most powerful lessons is exactly that. The world will never fully understand you, and that shouldn't be a problem. Stop and think. How many times do we waste energy trying to explain ourselves, justify our choices, or prove our worth to people who may never understand us? We hold back our opinions to avoid conflict. We suppress our true desires in order to fit in. We constantly seek external approval when, in reality, the only validation that really matters is our own. He observed that much of human suffering comes from attachment to things that don't serve us. People wear themselves out with petty concerns, hold grudges, nurture fears and insecurities that, in the end, add no real value to their lives. But when you step back for a moment and take an objective look, you realize that most of these worries are insignificant in the bigger picture of life. Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop worrying obsessively about a problem, the solution often appears by itself? Or that when you stop chasing someone's attention, they suddenly become more interested in you? This is no coincidence, it's a reflection of a deeper truth. When we let go of control, life flows. The problem is that most people resist this idea. They believe that if they stop worrying so much, they'll lose motivation, that if they let go, they'll be giving up. But this is a misinterpretation. Detachment doesn't mean apathy. It doesn't mean laziness. It means redirecting your energy to what really matters, freeing yourself from the burden of unnecessary worries. Montaigne encourages us to embrace imperfection, not just in ourselves, but in the world around us. He understood that seeking absolute control over life is an exhausting and never-ending battle. Life is unpredictable, and no matter how much we try to plan, prepare, or manipulate outcomes, there will always be elements that are beyond our reach. So why not accept this truth? Why not understand that mistakes, failures, and uncertainties are simply a natural part of existence. Now, imagine the relief of stopping trying to control every detail of your life. Imagine not torturing yourself with past decisions, not being afraid of failure, and instead seeing it as just another step on your journey. Montaigne reminds us that all the great thinkers, leaders, and artists in history faced rejection, failed countless times, and were misunderstood. But they didn't let these difficulties define them. They moved forward unconcerned with the opinion of the majority, because they understood that true success does not lie in external validation, but in authentic living. And here's an interesting point. When you adopt this mindset, people notice. You become more confident, more magnetic, and more centered in your own life. Not because you're forcing something to happen, but because you've stopped wasting energy on what doesn't matter. Think of those who seem to achieve success with ease, while others struggle tirelessly without results. The difference is not always in talent, intelligence, or effort. It's in the mindset. Those who thrive understand that letting go of unnecessary worries allows them to focus their attention on what really counts. And that's the real power of Montaigne's philosophy. Instead of wasting energy trying to control everything, he invites us to cultivate a mindset of lightness and clarity. Because when we stop attaching ourselves to unrealistic expectations and focus on what really matters, we discover a path of greater freedom, meaning, and fulfillment. Montaigne teaches us a simple but profoundly transformative truth. The more we free ourselves, the more we gain. When we stop fearing failure, we become more willing to take risks that can change our lives. When we stop seeking constant approval, we become more authentic and confident. And when we stop trying to control everything around us, we make room for unexpected opportunities to arise. That's why the philosophy of detachment, when applied correctly, doesn't mean giving up, but rather gaining a new form of freedom. It's about consciously choosing where to put our energy, focusing only on what really adds value and refusing to carry unnecessary burdens. Now stop for a moment and think about your own life. How many of your daily worries stem from fear of other people's opinions? How many times have you stopped doing something you really wanted to do for fear of being judged? How often do you mentally relive past mistakes as if you could change them through guilt or regret? Montaigne invites us to abandon these mental He reminds us that the past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the only moment that really belongs to us is the present. And by understanding this truth, something changes inside us. But there's another surprising discovery that comes with this mindset. Detachment, far from distancing us from people, actually brings us closer to them. There is a curious paradox in life. The moment we stop desperately seeking something is the moment it naturally finds us. When we stop begging for attention, we become respected. When we stop avoiding failure at all costs, opportunities multiply. And when we finally give up trying to control every detail, life begins to unfold in an unexpectedly harmonious way. This is one of the most profound aspects of Montaigne's philosophy. Detachment is not an act of escape, but a path to a deeper level of fulfillment. By letting go of the need to force results, we connect to the natural flow of life. And in doing so, we experience something that many spend their whole lives searching for, a genuine state of peace, power, and connection. But if detachment is so powerful, why do so many people struggle with it? The answer is simple. Because we have been taught to believe that control means security. From an early age, we learn that if we plan meticulously, care enough, and strive to shape the world to our will, we can guarantee a predictable and secure future. But Montaigne reminds us that this is an illusion. No amount of control can completely eliminate uncertainty. No amount of planning can avoid the unexpected. And no amount of worrying can change what is already beyond our reach. So instead of resisting life, Montaigne invites us to accept it as it is, with all its unpredictability, imperfection, and chaos. Think about your relationships. How many conflicts arise from unmet expectation? How much frustration arises from wanting others to act in a certain way? How often do we try to control the opinions, actions, and emotions of others, only to feel even more frustrated and disappointed? He understood that true connection doesn't come from control, but from acceptance. The more you allow others to be who they really are, without trying to mold them according to your own expectations, the more genuine and profound your relationships become. This explains why those who master detachment are often the most admired and respected. They don't suffocate others with unrealistic demands or expectations. They don't need constant confirmation to feel secure. They simply live in a state of quiet trust, allowing people to come and go freely. And, ironically, this attitude makes them even more attractive, more respected, and more valued. Have you ever noticed how the people who seek the most attention usually get the least, while those who are quiet and self-sufficient naturally attract the admiration of others? That's the power of detachment. Montaigne believed that the way we relate to others is a direct reflection of our internal relationship. If we constantly seek validation, it's because we haven't yet fully accepted ourselves. If we fear being alone, it's because we haven't yet become comfortable with our own company. If we need others to act in a certain way in order to feel safe, it's because we haven't yet cultivated stability within ourselves. But the moment we shift our focus inwards, when we stop trying to control others, when we stop fearing loneliness, when we free ourselves from external expectations, we become truly free. And that's when life begins to surprise us. Now, think about how much of your emotional energy is spent reacting to the words and actions of others. How many times have you allowed someone's opinion to ruin your day? How many times have you held on to resentment, hurt, or frustration, only to realize later that it brought you no real benefit? Montaigne teaches us that true peace comes from within, not from external approval. And when we understand this, our perspective on life changes completely. Imagine going through the world without being shaken by criticism. Imagine facing uncertainty without fear. Imagine being able to love and value people without feeling the need to control them or be reciprocated all the time. This is what happens when we stop caring about what doesn't really matter. But there is something essential. Letting go doesn't mean withdrawing from life, becoming indifferent or emotionally insensitive. It doesn't mean ignoring responsibilities or losing interest in things and people. Quite the opposite. True detachment allows us to engage more fully with life, but without the weight of obsession, unnecessary worry, or the need to control everything. Montaigne teaches us that there is a balance to be found. We must care about what really matters, our values, our purpose, our inner peace, and learn to let go of what only wears us down without bringing anything back. Now, reflect. What are you holding on to that no longer serves you? What expectations, fears, or attachments are draining your energy? And what would happen if, instead of resisting, you simply let them go? As we go deeper into this journey, we come to the ultimate and perhaps most profound realization. Accepting uncertainty, imperfection, and detachment not only brings us inner peace, but also leads to a more meaningful, successful, and fulfilling life. But if all this is so liberating, why do so many people still remain stuck in patterns of anxiety, approval seeking, and excessive control? The answer, once again, is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, the fear of what might happen if we loosen our grip on life. From an early age, we are conditioned to believe that if we relax, everything can fall apart. That if we stop trying to control every detail, we'll lose our way. But the truth, as Montaigne realized centuries ago, is that when we stop worrying about what doesn't matter, everything starts to fall into place naturally. Montaigne's philosophy is not about living recklessly or irresponsibly. On the contrary, it's about living wisely. He teaches us that by letting go of useless worries, we gain mental clarity. By giving up the need for control, we gain freedom. And by accepting uncertainty, we find a deeper meaning to life. Now, think about the most significant moments in your life, those moments that really mattered. Were they planned down to the smallest detail, or did they simply happen when you least expected it? Many of the most beautiful things in life cannot be forced. Love, inspiration, creativity, success, all these things happen more naturally when you're not trying to hold on to them. Think of the artist who, when he stops worrying about whether his work will be accepted, finally creates something extraordinary. The entrepreneur who, by abandoning the fear of failure, takes bold risks, and transforms an entire industry. Or the person who, by stopping desperately looking for a relationship, ends up meeting someone spontaneously and naturally. This brings us to a fascinating paradox. What we try hard to control often slips out of our hands. But when we let go and allow things to take their natural course, they often come back to us in ways we would never have imagined. Montaigne understood this truth and warned us. Life is not meant to be a constant battle. Yes, we will face challenges, difficulties, and moments of uncertainty, but fighting reality, resisting change, and holding on to things we can't control only amplifies suffering. So he invites us to do something different. Instead of resisting, why not flow? Instead of fearing uncertainty, why not accept it as part of the journey? Instead of seeking unattainable perfection, why not find beauty in imperfection? And here's the big revelation. You don't need to control everything to be happy. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to fear the unknown, because life will always be uncertain. And that's exactly what makes it fascinating. When you stop seeking external approval, you discover genuine self-confidence. When you abandon the fear of failure, you become unstoppable. When you stop trying to control every little detail, you create space for life to happen in the best possible way. And that is Montaigne's timeless wisdom. Life is not about conquering it by force, but about learning to dance with it. So ask yourself, what can you let go of today? What unnecessary weight are you carrying? And how could your life be different if you just trusted that everything will fall into place at the right time? Because the moment you stop worrying about the wrong things, the right things find their way to you. And that is the true freedom that Montaigne teaches us. If this video has made you think about how letting go of what doesn't matter can transform your life, then don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support this work, any contribution makes a difference and helps to bring this content to more people. Your help strengthens this message and allows more people to discover the power of inner freedom.